Hello, everyone. Hello out there. Thank you so much for your patience. Oh gosh, we got a lively and amazing conversation coming up, and I truly appreciate each and every one of you out there that are just being patient with our platforms and everything that we've got going. Please go ahead and connect. Get your friends, get your siblings, your cousins, your aunties, your uncle, because this is going to be a great and historical conversation that you do not want to miss. I had some dynamic guests on today. I am, of course, Diane, the co-owner of the Dog Bookshop. The Dog Bookshop is a family-owned and operated full-service bookstore in Dallas, Fort Worth. The mission of the Dog Bookshop is to inspire, inform, and educate customers through books and book-related events in a relaxing and spacious environment. No, we're not open to a lot of events, you guys, but we are slowly opening back up. We had an amazing day with the African American read-in, from children books to fiction to nonfiction books. We have had an amazing day. Now we are closing it out with police brutality. How timely this is, and how there is so much going on. This book is power packed, for reading groups, book clubs. Everybody's going to enjoy this book. But I am going to bring out our guest for today. And again, I appreciate everybody's patience on today. Interviewing our special guest today is Pharaoh. And let me bring Pharaoh up to the stage real quick and just give you a little bit about Pharaoh. Pharaoh is the son of Abi who he has on the phone with us today. Abi, as you know, is um, was initially named Charles Davis, but we won't go down that road because if you guys, if you know the last poets, you know Abi just an excellent speaker, excellent poet. His parents were jazz and gospel records and they studied Langston Hughes, and so he became this just phenomenal poet. And his son has inherited some of those traits, and we are just happy to have them on the platform on today. And then I have our special guest for today, the author of the book Police Brutality. I have coming to the stage right now is Eton Thomas. Welcome to the stage to the Doc Bookshop Live. Eton, I am not going to be here long, you guys. I know you guys have got a feel for me throughout Black History Month. I've been speaking all month long. By mid-month, I totally lost my voice speaking at the NAACP, but that was an exciting presentation. So Farrell is going to take over this conversation with Eton Thomas. Eton Thomas is a former 11-year-old NBA player. Was born in Harlem, where Farrell is from, and Abi lives right now. And you will hear Abi be a phone. He was raised in Tulsa, Oklahoma. Last year we celebrated the Black Wall Street Centennial Year in Tulsa, Oklahoma. So he's coming from a historical place. He has published multiple books, including We Matter, Athletes and Activism, More Than an Athlete, Fatherhood. Fatherhood is the book that we pull out every June for Men's Month. And he probably doesn't even know this, that, sometimes sometimes we have to be able to tell the author stories while they're out there doing other things, and that's what we do here at the Doc Bookshop. Um, Rising to the Ultimate Challenger and Voices of the Future. Thomas received a 2010 National Basketball Players Association Community Contribution Award, as well as the 2009 Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. Foundation Legacy Award, both honoring his advocacy for social justice. Yes, we need that today. He is a senior writer for the basketballnews.com and a regular contributor to The Guardian and The Undefeated. He can frequently be seen on MSNBC as a special correspondent and co-hosts a weekly show with Dave Zimmerman called The Collision, where sports and politics collide. Ooh, much needed. So again, I am going to turn the conversation over to Pharaoh Abi and none other than Eton Thomas. Thank you very much, everybody, for your patience. Enjoy this lively conversation.
All right. That was Don just said it. That's awesome. Eton, how you doing, brother?
I'm doing good, sir. How you doing?
Awesome. Well, first of all, I just want to say that I am just honored to have a brother like yourself doing what you're doing, to be able to chop it up with you. I wanted to just kind of reiterate some of what Danya said as far as what you do and what this book is about, because I love the little paragraph they have for you on the back where it says you share personal experiences with police violence and white supremacy, weaving them together with interviews of athletes, entertainers, media figures, and retired police officers, as well as family members of victims of police brutality. Thomas Eaton explores the origins of white supremacy and how it was interwoven into Christianity, and discusses the continued cultivation of injustice in American society. I think that is a great just synopsis
Mm-hmm.
breakdown of what this book is about. Um, Now we want to give a shout out to my pops, Abiodun Oyewale, who is also with us. He's with us via phone. What's up, pops?
Yeah, man, I'm listening and it sounds good. And I'm very happy to be in communication with Eton because he's a dear friend of mine. And he stays with his hands on the plow. He never gives up. He continues. He's consistent. And I really appreciate that about him. Yeah. So, yes, I'm looking forward to the conversation.
Yeah. All right.
That's great.
All right, man. Awesome stuff. So my first question to you, brother, is, of course, what inspired you to document? Because this is what this is. You're documenting, and as much as I know that's important, what inspired you to do this documentation?
Well, it's kind of like a deeper dive into my previous book, We Matter, Athletes and Activism. And I did a little bit of the similar type of a thing, but it was all about pushing athletes to continue using their voices. So I interviewed a whole lot of athletes. I interviewed athletes from yesteryear, like Bill Russell and Kareem and, John Carlos, and athletes like, presently with like Eric Reed, who was kneeling with Kaepernick the whole time, and, D Wade and, Carmelo. And it's just, when you're talking about the topic of police brutality, I was going around speaking to different universities, people hear it differently when they hear athletes speak about it. So there was a whole push for athletes to continue speaking about it. But then I wanted to take a deeper dive into the topic with this book and really get into the origins of police brutality and the history of it and the systems that were systematically put in place. It's not like, you hear people talking about the bad apple theory. And I was like, no, it's not bad apple theory. It's a whole system that's messed up. The whole system that is set up to work the way that it is working right now. Yeah. And, going into the history of it and just taking a deep dive. But yeah, no, it's not light reading. It's a, very in-depth reading. But you hear the experiences from a lot of different people, from a lot of different walks of life on the topic. And I wanted to bring all those voices into it because you're uncovering different aspects of it by bringing in so many different voices.
Yeah.
If that makes sense.
Yeah, it does. And I think it's awesome that you went ahead and went outside even of the boundaries of because we know that you're an athlete. 11 years you were in the NBA. And that, and I just wanted to stress 11 years because that means that you did some time in the NBA. You wasn't just there for a year or two.
Right.
Legitimate NBA veteran. But the lineage, the history of athletes speaking up and speaking out, starting from Muhammad Ali. I mean, right, greater than that. But even with Tommy Smith and John Carlos, actions of the '68 Olympics, right?
Right.
And of course Jim Brown and Kareem Abdul-Jabbar standing with Ali, right?
Yep.
Pops, anybody else you could think of that represents athletes and activism? Hello?
And don't leave out Colin Kaepernick.
Oh yeah, of course.
Oh yeah, definitely. Definitely.
That's right, Colin. Yeah. But we have this, so I mean, I think it's awesome that you went outside of those boundaries because and of course, Pops, who's your favorite today? He always mentions how much he loves LeBron James.
Oh yeah,
LeBron James, because he's conscious and he shows that he cares about his people.
Yes,
and that he gets nothing but love and respect from me, as well as quite a number of other folks. Yeah, because people, they can't help but respect you when you show how much you care about your folks.
Yeah, that's right. So in that, I just want to, at the beginning of this conversation, man, I just want to show you that love because you didn't have to do this. You didn't, you wasn't forced to do this. I think from listening to you, it's more of an obligation because of the platform that you were given. Am I
Definitely.
about that? Yeah.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Definitely. It's such a tremendous opportunity. The athletes that I kind of grew up admiring and reading about, the athletes that my mother would give me books about. My mother was a school teacher, so when your mother's a school teacher, you always have extra reading to do in the summertime. You know what I mean, and stuff like that. So she would give me books about Bill Russell, books about Kareem, books about Muhammad Ali, showing athletes using their voice outside of the boundaries of their sport. So that's who I really grew up admiring. So that's always what I wanted to become. And as I just, got into high school, into college, that's what I wanted to be.
Okay. Awesome.
Hey, John, don't you come from Oklahoma?
Yes, sir.
And,
so
weren't you a part of the fallout behind Black Wall Street?
Well, the interesting part with Black Wall Street, we grew up having that education. So my middle school was like 10 minutes away from where Black Wall Street was. You know what I mean? Wow. So we grew up with that education. And when I got to Syracuse, I was so surprised that so many people didn't know anything about it. So I remember being in this big lecture hall, and it was economics, and the professor just made a reference to something like that. And he mentioned Tulsa race riot and what happened in Tulsa. And he says, and does anybody know about that? And I raised my hand, of course. I'm looking around, and then nobody had their hands raised. It's a big lecture hall, 200 people. And there was like one other person that was from Oklahoma and one person that was from Texas out of 200 people. You know what I mean? And that was really it. So really, people just started learning about Black Wall Street like a few years ago, when it was like depicted in a few movies and shows and stuff like that. But I was amazed because we grew up with that history because we were right there.
Hey, it's crazy that you're saying that, right? From the time that you were a child and then up until now, where more people are familiar with the story of Black Wall Street. But that's many years in between where folks didn't know, right? And you would think the progress is moving, right? And here we are in the midst, as we speak of this, we're in the midst of them deliberately stifling or trying to deliberately stifle our educators in teaching us about our history. I mean, as we speak, is that not crazy?
Oh, no, it's absolutely crazy. I mean, one of the people I interviewed.
Of course, you got to recognize you can't let somebody who's already got innate power recognize that they've got complete power. You can't do that. If you want these people to still be your underlings, we want them to look up to you and praise you and give you all the due. You can't let them know just how great they are. You can't let them know how resilient they are. Our strength cannot be advertised. That's dangerous to advertise the strength of a Black human being in this society. Because there are many people who are too insecure to be able to handle that. And that's a problem. When I met Eton, I met him at Tulsa. The place where Black Wall Street was a physical reality. And that didn't do anything. It just pissed off a whole lot of folks who did not bring us here to be prosperous. They brought us here to make them prosperous. The system, the concept of our being in America has not changed. And if we do anything that's going to be on an upperly mobile level, it's because we found a way where there was no way. And that's, for Eton to come out of Tulsa and play some basketball and make some money. All right, so he was entertaining all the people who like basketball, but he kept his consciousness. His ancestors never left his mind. He knew who he was, and that is a problem. They expect we would give you some money, we allow you to be on the stage, forget all that other stuff. Just be abiding, go along with the program, and just like what did they tell LeBron? Just shut up and dribble. I mean, that's all they want. But we do have a responsibility to try to wake up the dead. There's no question.
And I want when you were just talking, Pops, I was thinking of my meeting with Craig Hodges. I was just curious, Eton Thomas, do you know? I'm sure you do, but do you know Craig Hodges' story or at all? Have you ever met him?
Well, I interviewed him for this book, so he's in Police Brutality and White Supremacy, and it was an interesting part. He was actually in the first chapter. And there's a part where I was specifically talking about Rodney King. So I started with Rodney King because that was really, one of I was early. I was in middle school when Rodney King happened. So I went back to that. I interviewed Rodney King's daughter, Mrs. Laura Dean King, for the book. And then I interviewed Isaiah Thomas, and then I interviewed Craig Hodges.
Right, I see.
Now, Craig Hodges was talking about how is everything that's happening at that time. It was during the NBA Finals. I don't remember the year, but it was during the NBA Finals, I think 1992. And it was the Lakers playing against the Bulls. He tells a story of, he was like, we have to do something. We have to make some kind of statement. And he went up to Magic. He went up to MJ. He's like, listen, we need to tell them that we're going to boycott the game and we're going to make a statement because what happened to Rodney King and the verdict and everything like that is wrong. And he said they were like, yeah, that's a little bit too much. We can't boycott it. And he was talking about how frustrated he was because we have all that power, but we weren't using it then. Back then, like right now, you have athletes all using their voice is totally different. But back then, you had like Craig Hodges, Mahmoud Abdul-Rauf, and really that was about it.
Right.
You know what I mean? And you saw what happened to them. And you know what I mean? They got whiteballed out the league. Yep. And so, that was a really, deep interview talking to Craig Hodges because he has he cares about the community. So it hurt him to see what was happening to our people.
Yeah.
Like it hurt him, like it bothered him. Like he's like, I can't come here and just play ball. Like ain't nothing happening. Like the whole, like the city's not on fire. Yeah. Like we didn't just see all these cops get off after we saw Rodney King get beat. Just come and play ball like nothing happened. And it bothered him. So, but that is supposed to bother you. As a human being, it's supposed to bother
That's
you.
right. And the conversation I had with him, he was telling me how, after you win the championship, the NBA championship or any major sport championship, you visit the president. And he said when he visited the president, it was President Bush Senior,
Bush.
Father, right? And he said, first of all, they said come in formal attire, and he wore African clothing.
African attire.
Right. So he told me, he said they was like, yo, who's that brother from Africa? Said he ain't. These are his words. They said he's not an African. He a nigga. He's a nigga from here. Yeah. I was like, oh my God. But he gave President Bush a letter. That basically gave some type of ideas as far as how the NBA could be more contribute to the uplift of many inner cities. Right. Thinking that's something that would make sense. And in actuality, fast forward 20 years later, the NBA has done a whole lot more. But they weren't ready for that, especially.
No. Well, the thing that's different is, people gotta understand. David Stern is completely different than Adam Silver. Remember, David Stern was a commissioner then, and he was completely different. His thought pattern was, we don't want to do anything that's going to take away or potentially take away from our bottom line. Adam Silver, and I interviewed Adam Silver in We Matter because I wanted to get him on record explaining how different he is than David Stern. So that's one of the reasons for the differences in the two different generations.
See, only you can break that down. Only you can break that down as that's what's up. That's what's up. Awesome stuff. Pops, did you want to chime in on that?
Yeah, well, William Rhodes was the brother that wrote a $40 million slave.
Bill Rhoden.
Yeah, he's a friend of mine. And we recognize the reason why the NBA has been given a little bit more leadway to be vocal and not to get penalized. If you take away the brothers, they ain't got an NBA.
That's right.
Period. And the real deal is that it's such an entertaining sport. The fans come out to see this. This is a show. It's a big-time show. And the most revolutionary thing we would do, which was really probably start a real physical revolution, is to go ahead and say, you know what, we're not playing for this show anymore. We're going to have our own show, and we're out of here.
Right.
I don't believe that's ever going to happen in my lifetime, but because we are the straw that stirs the drink, and we're the drink that's being stirred.
Right.
There's no question about that. Yeah. And we have to recognize that we have power. Now, the one thing about the NBA, they recognize that black men.
That's why they give us that leeway, to do more, especially more than the NFL.
For long, they will accept and tolerate a lot of stuff that the NFL will not, because the NFL is functioning on an old white man plantation concept.
Right.
You are a field, I am the master, and you must do what I say. It's that simple.
Yeah.
But the fact is that, I know that there are efforts, and Eton he's going to stand out. He's like Kaepernick in a sense that he's made it quite clear what we need to focus in on.
Yeah.
I mean, when we talk about police brutality, Kaepernick was what he was trying to say. It's wrong that brothers are shot down in the street. And we also recognize that this is not a black situation. This is a humane situation. Pharaoh, you even turned me on to what Popovich said.
Yeah.
And I was blown away. I had no idea where Popovich had the feelings that he had.
Yeah.
He said white skin privilege was messing up America.
Yeah.
And he said, my kids leave the house, I don't have to worry about my kids.
Yep.
But when any black mother or father's children leave the house, they have to wonder if the kids will come back alive.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
And he said this out of his mouth.
Yeah.
This wasn't written in a script. I couldn't believe it. I said, this guy's got some humanity.
Have you had conversations with him, Eton?
Yeah, no, I definitely did. So one of the things that I did in this book was I have a whole chapter called White Privilege.
Right.
And I only spoke to white people for this chapter.
Right.
So I spoke to Sue Bird, WNBA player.
I know the Sue Bird, and I know the Tim Wise, who I love.
Tim Wise. Tim Wise is fantastic. How he breaks stuff down. I spoke to Rex Chapman
and Kyle
Korver. Right. So I wanted to speak to white people in particular because a lot of times when I'm going into mainstream America and you're having these conversations, there's certain words that when white people hear, some white people, not all, but some white people, when they hear, their ears automatically close.
Right.
When we're talking about it. So I was like, okay, I'm not going to talk about it. I'm going to let somebody that looks like you talk about it.
Right.
And so they hear it completely different. It resonates differently. They, and the way that they all broke it down, the same way that Abiodun was talking about that Popovich broke it down. They recognize that there is a privilege that they live in. That they don't have to worry. They don't have to have the talk with their children like we have to.
Right.
You know what I mean? I mean, it's a totally different thing, and they're breaking it down all through the chapters. So those are really powerful chapters for them. You know what I mean?
Yes.
Right.
And I read Sue Bird.
What you said about right because that was another part of what Papa just said. He said it's an ugly conversation, but we must have it.
Yeah,
definitely.
I remember the first time I heard Popovich speak of anything like that, and I told you, Pops, when he said, unless you're black, you don't understand. He said, you can't understand. He said, there's no way we can understand what a black family goes through with dealing with this. He said, so we shouldn't even speak about it unless we understand it. When he said that, my ear was, I said, did he just say that? Because that's what needs to be said. That's the conversation that needs to be said. I was like, wow.
And they heard it differently because it was him saying
I applaud Popovich's humanity.
Yes.
He is a human being. And once you put yourself into the category of a human being, you cease being white, black, brown, yellow, or whatever. Because you're now a part of the only race there is on the planet.
Yes.
And that's what it's all about. If you recognize your humanity, then you want to hold it sacred. There is nothing more important and more sacred than your humanity. And it's being trashed right now. It's being distorted. It's being abused. It's being mishandled. It's being manipulated in ways that it shouldn't be. But we all are human beings. And for us to kind of grow to that understanding, I don't know if I'll see it in my lifetime or not. But there are people on that plane who understand that this is the move. And because if we get caught up in all this other little stuff that's really tags and labels, it can retard all of us. And we're all just stupid and silly running around here. When the reality is that humanity is taking a beating. And if we're about humanity, we want everyone to be treated fairly. You don't have to make a law for that to take place. That's just natural.
But this is the thing. This is the thing, though, and we talked about it, in the book. We're still not looked at as humans,
right?
And every time you see the description, so every time in every family, so I interviewed a lot of different family members of victims of police brutality, and they all said the same type of similar thing. Tatiana Jefferson sisters, Botham John's sister,
even Laura Dean King.
Laura Dean King. They're all saying the same thing. Where when they hear the media speak about their loved one that was just killed by the police, there's such a lack of humanity. They were killed by the police, and then they're put on trial.
Right? Isn't that crazy?
But the thing about it is, Malcolm X talked about this a long time ago. He said it is done strategically for a reason, because then it's making then white America look and say, okay, they don't feel so bad about what the police did to this person because they weren't that good of a person. Yeah, you know what I mean. And then
you put a quote in there. You put a quote in there, man. You said, Malcolm X's media portrays Black community as one large criminal element, and that's how it is always portrayed, even when it's known, like Atiana Jefferson. No, when Breonna Taylor, when they invaded Breonna Taylor's home, and then her boyfriend, who was trying to protect her and himself, he was put on trial. He was put on a moral trial. Like, what is he doing with a gun? He was possibly a drug dealer. But
that's the crazy part. This is when you hear the NRA and the gun toting white people and how they're like, yes, we need our guns. Don't take away our guns. Second Amendment rights, everything like that. The first thing they do with a Black person that's killed by police, they say, "Oh, he had a gun." Then it's like, "Oh, well, it was an illegal gun. He was a thug. He was this." Like, no,
not the same.
He was the same as you. Had your gun and you're registered in a legal.
Like the fact is, the second part of your book is police brutality and white supremacy.
Yeah,
and we're dealing with a virus, and that's so ironic because there's no virus that's stronger than white supremacy.
That's true. That's what you say, Pa. What you say?
There's no virus stronger than that.
Yeah.
Because that's a desperate act to hold on to something that you could never own.
Yeah.
You cannot control the wind. Yeah. You cannot own rain. You cannot own earth. You cannot be Mother Nature. You cannot be God.
Yeah.
And we need to recognize that people have a right to be here who may not think like you, but they're not trying to hurt you. Yeah. So we have a system of insecure people who say, if you don't go along with the program the way I designed it, then we should make you suffer. We should give you grief. And that's immature. It's not just evil, but it's immature. Yeah. And that's what we're dealing with. Putin is a classic example. He's a bad, bad kid with dangerous toys. And of course, one of his cohorts here in America is Donald Trump.
Right.
I mean, and we have these people because of their own personal insecurities. They're the kids that got their lunch money taken when they were in school, and they pay everybody back. I mean, they want to be bullies now, and that's not natural. It's not normal. It's not right. It's out of order, and it's very immature and stupid. But the world seems to go along with it, and the ways I don't understand. Yeah. But the concept of white supremacy is a major germ that really kind of it infects a lot of people over the world, because there are some people who are black as night in skin color, but they want to adopt the whiteness because they think that has some special
in the white
power.
supremacy. They believe
right.
Yeah.
Oh no, definitely.
Years ago, Pops would say to me, as far as, because, and I always love sharing this as far as just dealing with what it is. Ever since the first slave ship that was brought here with enslaved Africans or captured Africans, there has always been whites who are against slavery and against the concept, right? We understand that. Right. But I remember Popsy said, but to determine the John Browns or the Harriet Beecher Stowe, they have to prove themselves. Because, in other words, those that are really down to fight for that, and I like the title of Tim Wise you mentioned in your book. Tim Wise says that he's an anti-racism educator, and and just knowing that that's what he does. This is what I do. We all know about Jane Elliott. There's another one. She's a beast.
Fantastic.
Right?
Yeah, she's fantastic.
Right. But I like what you said. What Sue Bird said. I read that part. She was just talking about what could she do, and she starts at home, teaching her kids and just teaching them what it is. Because I think a big part of this privilege is the fact that you don't even have to tell your kids. You don't even have to teach your kids because they're not. It's not relevant to them thinking that way. that privilege is poison in itself, because once again that whole ideology is perpetuated all over again when it comes, when they're faced with any type of adversity. But the deal is getting white folks to understand this. Well, I don't even want to say get them to understand. Those that do
Yeah.
understand.
Well,
Those that do understand.
And this is the difficult part for me, if I'm being honest with you, because so let's talk about, like, say the second chapter, the one where I interviewed Hbcu Tour, and that's the one where I was talking about the Central Park 5.
Mm-hmm.
And so I went through everything with it. I interviewed one of the members of the now exonerated 5, Raymond Santana. He walks you through everything that happened, the entire process. It was an amazing interview. And I interviewed Hbcu, and I interviewed a police officer who's basically telling people what to do when you're in that situation. Like, you don't ever talk to the police without your parents. Like, you don't know. He's just breaking it all down. But during that time period of everything that happened, the way that they racialized the entire incident, the way that it was 5 black teenagers and a white woman. Now, the way that they described those black teenagers were using language like they were monsters, vicious demons, wanting to prey on this innocent little white woman, that it was all going back to slavery of what they would do with the thought. So what they wanted to do was lynch them all in the town square like they did back in slavery.
Right.
So we talked about in the book where Donald Trump, took out the a hit basically as an ad, but he said, calling for the death penalty. You had all the different stuff that was going on, and all the white people that bought into it. And I asked Raymond Santana, well, how many of them have apologized to y'all? And he kind of like, yeah. I was like, so they're all a part of it there. They're all there, but nobody is able to have the human decency to say we were wrong.
Right.
Now, I'm not even talking about Trump. No, don't nobody expect Trump to do that. I'm talking about all the other white people.
What do you say?
Scottsboro boys.
Say it again, Pops.
The Scottsboro boys.
Right.
Oh, yeah.
Supposedly
exonerated 50 years later, right?
Right. They were looking at a white woman and they all got put in prison for life.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Yep.
And they were looking at her, as the Lord said, with a look of leering, like they were going to rape her. No one had even touched her.
Right. But even the thought of it is enough.
Emmett Till was beat to a pulp.
Right.
And the woman, before she died, she had to confess the boy had never said anything to her that was out of character.
Yeah.
But even the thought of it happening is enough too. But that is what happens right now. I always bring this point, and I even mentioned it in the book. I said, if Nicole Simpson was black, white people would not care if OJ did it or not.
Right.
They would not care right now. That is like a hot button topic with them, because of the fact that it's a white woman.
Right.
You know what I mean? I mean, it's when people are like, okay, why are you making things racial? It's like, because they are racial.
They are racial.
They are racial. That's the reason why you're still upset about OJ, even after all these years. Went to prison and it came out. You're still upset by it because it's a white woman. You know what I mean? Now listen, and this is the proof of it. I mentioned this in the book as well. The reason why I could say 100% that is the case is because I haven't heard any white people say anything about Ray Caruth. You remember Ray Caruth?
Yes.
Okay, Ray Caruth, right? So he admitted to it. Everything else, he killed. Trying to, everything what he did with his girlfriend, pregnant girlfriend, stuff like that. He went to jail. He came out. Did no white people say nothing? Wasn't nobody protested. Anybody mad at Ray Caruth? They didn't say a word. Why? Because the woman is black.
Yeah.
Now, if the woman was white, it would have been different. Yeah. So don't tell me it's not racial. Yes,
things are racial. You were talking about white supremacy, and the reality is that white supremacists know their staying power is temporary, and so right now they've got a whole campaign to put some more to make their coffee a little blacker. So they advertise in the integration like it's the latest style on the planet, and at the same time with the sole purpose of promoting and perpetuating their white culture through because they know that somehow they want to be here forever, and they know that they're not going to be. So if they can merge with us because we have lasting more longevity and can work from their perspective, that will satisfy them. When the reality is that we don't. I mean, that's not necessary. We need to love ourselves. We need to appreciate each other, and we're not going to merge into a white world because we hooked up with a white person. Most of the time, they try to become soulful because that's the power source. But the reality is that that's being pumped up primarily to maintain a certain white supremacy attitude, which is going to fade just based on the natural order of things. That's not a reality that's going to exist for an extended period of time.
Okay. Hey, Ray Caruth. Let's break down Ray Caruth. A lot of folks don't know who Ray Caruth was. Baseball player.
Right.
Oh, they don't remember what happened?
Right.
Yeah, because you don't hear it talked about. Right. You know what I mean? And that was, he went to jail. He like what is the actual topic? He
paid someone.
He paid, kill his girlfriend, right? And she was pregnant
because she was pregnant. He didn't want to have children, right?
Didn't want to have children, and he got found guilty, everything, and he went to jail.
That's right. Professional.
And came back out. White people ain't said a word. Right. You ain't heard a word about it.
You ain't heard a word about it.
Not a word.
And I just want to, just a word for everyone listening. Whenever you hear something that you're not familiar of, we're in the information world. Google it, because I do it all the time. When I'm not sure of something, I Google it and then I cross-reference what I find, because
definitely
Google is always not 100%. But yeah.
Definitely.
So that's what Ray Caruth is. But man, you're right on it with that, Pops. And the so-called browning of America is inevitable. We're witnessing it now. I mean, the two most populated states, California and Texas, is now minority majority. And I don't even like referring to us as the minority, but put it this way: white America is no longer the majority in the population. It's Texas and California. And I think for the
and this has been a fear, Phil. This has been a fear for some time.
It's been a fear.
I mean, like Chuck D said, it's a fear of a black planet. And the thing about it is that you brought black people here to raise you, to love you, to show you how to love, to show you how to be civilized.
Wait a minute, Pops. You mean you're trying to say that black people were not just brought here to work the land?
No, that was like secondary. The fact that we could be in that hot sun and pick cotton and cane and tobacco and indigo. Come on. No, we were brought here to show them how to live. This guy was lost, and he needed some guidance, and we were here to be his guides. We weren't going to be paid like guides, but that's what it was all about.
Right.
Dame Lou Hamer gave me the best understanding of our relationship in America when I was going on about how she had been harassed, dealing with those kids from New York City.
You met her personally, Fannie Lou Hamer?
I met Fannie Lou Hamer personally at Shaw University in 1973.
Wow.
I had a personal talk with her in the student union early in the morning. I was so happy that she got up early, because I always got up early, and I was there by myself, and she walked right on into the spot, and she saw me sitting down, and we sat down. But she spoke to the student body the night before, and I told her how much I appreciated her speech and so forth. Then I started asking her questions about what she had, how was it? I said, I guess she had to do a lot of cooking. You know, you had all them kids coming down there from New York to help with the voting rights. She said, honey, I ain't do no cooking. My husband did the cooking. My husband's a big cook. I'm an organizer. She made it quite clear that she organized. And then I said, well, did the Klan bother you? She said, yeah, they bothered me. They come by, shoot up the house, and because they knew I had them kids in there, and then they come back, I have my gun, I shoot right back. Fannie was no joke, and I didn't want to get her confused with Martin Luther King, because King was like, turning the other cheek. Fannie was a warrior, and she was not afraid. And the fact is that I said, you know what? It's ridiculous that we have to live like this in the place where they brought us and we grew up. And I said, these people, I was so angry. I said, they all need to be exterminated. And she patted me on my leg, bro, and she says, son, they're only children, and they brought us here to raise them. There is nothing that's ever been said to me that's more profound than that. And in every chance they get, one of their greatest movies of all time, Pharaoh, is Gone with the Wind. Hattie McDaniel got an Oscar for playing a supporting actress, as a maid. She got grief from the NAACP because she played a maid. She was much more than a maid. If anybody ever watched that movie, they called her Mammy. Mammy translates to mother.
The mama.
And
That's right.
runs the house. And Fanny and Hattie McDaniel ran the house. Told Scarlett O'Hara how to act like a lady. Told Rick Butler to act like a man. How does a slave instruct these so-called free white people on how to be what they supposed to be?
Ain't that something?
Mm-hmm.
That's good, right?
Yep.
That's good. That's good. That's good, Pop.
So a lot of times we don't read the lines. We don't see what's going on.
Right.
This he's a child, and he's been crying out for help. He has all of the tools, all of the weapons, but he is immature. And his immaturity is what's created a lot of this insecurity, and the insecurity creates madness. Yeah. It creates killings. It creates brothers getting shot down in the street. It creates mobs chasing Ahmaud Arbery around the neighborhood and killing him. I mean, it creates a fear that's not even founded, but it's their personal inner fears that they have to deal with, and they're using us as their reflection. Yeah. And it's sad because we're here to be had by these folks who refuse to look at themselves.
Awesome stuff. Hey, Etan, in the book, out of the listing of all of the people that you have, is there anyone that stands out? I noticed Mark Cuban. Now I've read some of the interviews, not all of them, but Mark Cuban, I didn't get to read that one, but I was curious because he has power. I was just curious as to the mindset.
So with Mark Cuban, I was kind of challenging him a little bit about, so I have history with Mark Cuban. I was drafted to the Dallas Mavericks in 2000 when he first bought the team. So I was actually the first person he actually drafted.
Wow.
You know what I mean? Yeah, so I have a history with him.
Awesome.
So,
you know that, Pops?
What did you say? I missed that.
He said, I asked him about Mark Cuban being in the book. He said, in actuality, he was the very first person he drafted because he was drafted by the Mavs when Mark Cuban first brought them.
Yeah. So I have a history with him. Right. So having a conversation with him, I was challenging him and the other NBA. You know what I mean? I don't like to use the word owners. I like to use the term, CEOs. I can't do that owners thing. I'm like, that's a terrible name for it. You know what I mean? But to be able to do more and use their power more, in addition to the putting out a statement that Black Lives Matter, let me back up. So after George Floyd, the summer of 2020, it was like the white guilt all around the country. And all companies and everybody were, and it was kind of interesting because I still don't know why that case, as opposed to so many of the other cases that happened before them. And you know what I mean? I don't know if it was because we was in a pandemic and everybody was kind of, shut down and they focused. I have no idea. But so I was challenging him at a time where, it was great that, all different NBA teams were putting out statements and, NFL teams were putting out statements saying Black Lives Matter, what happened to George Floyd. I was like, that's all cool and everything. That's great. Right. But y'all have more power. Y'all can actually influence the way that the police departments are actually operating in the cities where your team is.
That's right.
You're Mark Cuban. You're not just Joe Blow. So you're in those circles with the head of the police chief, the mayor, the governor, those. That's your circle. And so I was kind of pushing him to do more than that. And at first, when you read the interview, we're kind of going back and forth because at first he's saying, well, sometimes people think I have more power than I have. And I was like, no, Mark Cuban, come on now. You got power. You know what I mean? Like, let's not act like you're not Mark Cuban. You're Mark Cuban, and so we're going back and forth about that. And I'm pushing them to use, because it's great that NBA athletes are using their voices and saying things like that. It's different when you have billionaires. Mark Cuban is a billionaire. You know what I mean? It's different the amount of influence that they have. So in that discussion, that's what I was really pushing more for him to do. So it was a little bit more of a debate / interview.
Yeah, because I think just glancing over it while you were talking, I think he's thinking me like him as an island, but not realizing that with I mean, he has an NBA team. You know what I'm
Right.
saying?
Yeah.
That within itself speaks volumes, and as
Yes.
well as other things he owns. But you know, and some of that is maybe genuine, and some of that may be just like, hey, I don't want to, you know, I want my hands to be kind of clean, you know.
Right. Well, I think that some of it is that I'm doing this. The bar is set so low.
Right.
That's what I want. And if you allow the bar to be set low, then
Good
you're
one.
only going to get that low of an expectation or that low of an output. So I'm raising the
that
bar.
comes back to us.
Of course.
Yeah.
We got to set the bar higher.
Yes.
Like that. Like that's great that you put out a statement. That's great that you did. Okay, now we need more. We need you to be able to, if you're really on board with this, now we need you to use the power that you have to influence the police departments to be able to put different things in place so that what happened to a Tatiana Jefferson doesn't happen. You know, what happened to Botham John doesn't happen. Where you hold police officers accountable, where you don't have qualified immunity.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? So those are the things that, yes, we need, you can do a little bit more than, you know.
Yeah.
So I think it's important to be able to do this. That's what really, you know, with that interview, that's what that was about.
And just to let y'all know, we have a Botham John Street down there.
Yes.
It's a little corner street, but nonetheless it's a street.
So let me say this about the Botham John, about Botham John's sister. And I really am glad about how we did that interview. Did I lose you? Okay, you're still there. So Botham John's sister, Alyssa Finn's Charlie, she is amazing. And going back to that incident when everything they're in the courtroom, a lot of people, and I want to make sure I say this.
She caught a lot of flack, right?
A lot of flack when her brother asked Amber Geiger for a hug to say that he forgave her.
Right.
Okay, now she broke down, which is what a lot of us didn't know in the community as to why he needed to do that. Because he was filled, this was her brother. Right. He was filled with so much anger and hatred, which is understandable for her, that he could not function in life.
Wow.
Now, we don't know what that feels like because we're looking on the outside and we're like, you know, wait, why is he hugging her? Why is he saying he forgive her? But we're not in the situation. They're in the situation. He could not function in life. So in order for him to be able to function, he had to do that. Or he would have just been overtaken with anger and hatred and not been able to function and gone off into like a, you know what I mean, mental asylum or something like that, or done something crazy and ended up in prison. Those were his options of the road that he was going and how he was feeling. And she broke that down. Now, she talked about all the flack that their family got after that. And I was like, yeah, that's not right, because nobody can tell you how to grieve.
Yeah.
Nobody can tell you how to deal. There's no playbook to deal with how you're supposed to deal with when a police officer kills your loved one.
Right.
You know what I mean? Everybody grieves differently. So,
I think black folks look at it like that's our family member too. Like, to hell with them police officers.
That's not your family member. We're looking at somebody else's family member and projecting our feelings on them, but we're not actually in it. They're in it.
Yeah.
So that was a really important interview that I want a lot of people to pay attention to, because she breaks that whole thing down. It just, you know, it should cause people to look at it completely differently.
And that's on page 245. So please check that out of the book. Yeah. Alyssa Finley. Yeah.
Yep, Alyssa Finley. Yep.
Pops, were you going to say something?
No, I was listening, man. I mean, the information is precious, man. I'm just taking it all in because there's so much going on, and the people that we think we know, we don't really know sometimes. Yeah. And it's just interesting to hear the stories.
Yeah.
Now, I never at this moment.
Yeah. Good stuff. I just wanted to say real quick, I know when we were talking about just holding us accountable to raise the bar, you know, we were last time we had something, we had a conversation here at the dock, and Pops is on, and I was just talking about, we were talking about Black Lives Matter. That's what it was. And we were saying how when that phrase first started getting steam, you know, I mentioned it to Pops, and he was like, "Well, you know, Black Lives Matter. That's your slogan now, okay?" And I was like, you know, well, you know, a lot of other folks didn't understand Pops seemingly to be unenthused by that phrase, and then I had to intervene. I remember telling him because Pops was here in Texas, and then someone asked him about it, and he was like, oh, "Okay." And then after he left, they asked me about it. Your dad didn't really seem to like Black Lives Matter, and I said, you have to understand, he comes from a generation where the slogan was Black Power, and now we're just saying we matter. And then I even took it back even further, because you think about the right after slavery, when we started building our communities, when we started building our Black Wall Streets, right?
Mm-hmm.
The unspoken slogan, if you will, was Black land, Black nation, if you will, right? Because we weren't looking to, you know, the ex-slave master. We were looking to ourselves to build our Black world, right? So we went from a Black world, a Black nation, or even Black land, to, okay, we're going to integrate. So at least within the integration, let's have some Black power. Okay, we got a little Black power, but not enough. Okay, can we just matter? Like, what's next?
Right. And that's the raising the bar. We got to raise the bar.
Lowering the bar.
We lowered it for them. Yeah, we can't lower it. We can't lower it.
Yeah, I endorse that. It's a feeble attempt at a movement.
Yeah. But at least we tried. Hey, brother, man, it is so awesome talking to you, man. And
definitely,
we have to encourage everyone to get this book, and I want to read it in its entirety because the interviews are just awesome. The interviews are just awesome. And Isaiah Thomas, I named my oldest son, my firstborn, I named him Kari Isaiah, and everybody knows I named him after Isaiah's book in the Bible. I named him after Isaiah Thomas, baby.
Isaiah Thomas. Yeah, his interview was great in the book. His interview was great.
I love Isaiah. Yeah. And Steph Curry.
And Steph Curry, right. Steph Curry's in the book. Yeah. A lot of great voices. Great voices.
Pops, any last words, Pops?
No, I'm proud. I just want to say that I'm very proud of Eton for all the work that he continues to do, his consciousness, and the fact that he's got a son and a daughter, he's raising a beautiful wife. He's a brother that, I just feel very good about, because we don't have as many brothers like him in America. Yeah. And we need more Etons. We need brothers that can be conscious and clear about who they are and not afraid to show it and not afraid to tell the truth. Yeah. So I'm just very, very pleased and proud that he's doing what he's doing, and that we're close. And I just look forward to when we can break bread together.
Definitely. It's nothing but respect for Abia doing. You know, I grew up listening to, you know what I mean? And it was just, it really digesting everything about the Last Poets, and really, you know, incorporating into my writing. So some of my writing, I sound like the Last Poets. Yeah, that's when I first, was doing my stuff. And it's always an honor to do anything with Abia. Awesome. So it's an honor to have you be a part of the book.
I just sat back and I appreciated and enjoyed the conversation. Me and my business partner, my sister Donna Craddock, we've been just sitting back, just enjoying all the information, all the interviews that Eton has shared in his book. And you know, I usually do all the interviews, so I'm remiss not to just read something that I think touched me. And I'll tell you after I read it why it touched me. Okay. And I know you guys have already talked about the Central Park 5, but I do want to read this part, especially in the spirit of African American reading, and then I'll tell you in the end. And this is chapter 2, the Central Park 5. You guys are okay if I read real quick, right?
Sure. Yeah.
Okay.
This is your show. You can do what you want to do. You ain't got to ask us no permission.
Your show.
Yeah, I just want to honor the men, especially Baba Abiodun, who always is patient with us. But it kicks off with a quote. We have to acknowledge that there are massive problems as if we want to facilitate change. There has been no effort to change the design of this country, and that's by Elaine Brown. Well, Eton goes on to say in chapter 2, I recently sat down and watched Ava DuVernay's When They See Us with my kids, Malcolm 15 and Imani 12. The 4-part series followed the infamous New York City Central Park jogger case of 5 young Black teenagers falsely accused of raping and beating a white woman in Central Park. It was depicted by the NYPD's illegal interrogation and eventual coerced confessions. During the movie, Imani paused. Imani paused it and said, "Wait a minute, Daddy. You always tell us that you spent all your summers in Harlem. Were you actually there when all this was happening?" My plan was to talk about that after the movie was over, but my smart little girl put the pieces together before I got a chance. I like that because a lot of times we take our children, and this is evident talking to families nowadays. They're not really talking to their young people. He has a
Yeah.
15-year-old and a 12-year-old, and he's not hiding the truth from them.
Yeah.
Shahrazad Ali told me a long time ago, we don't teach our children trying to expect a different reality or a different result. Things have not changed, so we have to unapologetically teach our children. And when I seen that he was sitting there with his 15-year and 12-year-old,
Yeah.
and you guys, you got to read the rest of the chapter, click the green button, buy the book, especially if you got children and you don't know how to talk to your children about the past or what their responses is going to be. Do it and do it unapologetically. And that right there, like, oh gosh, we need to hear this, especially on the African American reading, especially during Black History Month. Teach and tell your children, they're going to have those questions.
Yeah. Good stuff.
Definitely.
Good stuff.
Definitely.
That's all it's about. The future, right?
It really is.
That's the future thing.
Absolutely.
But I want to encourage everybody to get the book. I know you're listening on Facebook Live, it's on YouTube, and it's going to get replays and what have you. Please try to check this book out, The Police Brutality. We have it on our website, discounted right now. And I don't know if it's an audio, but I don't think it's an audio book yet. But when it's
an
an
audio book, we have the audio
okay,
book.
then it's on our website too right now. If you see it in audio book, it is on. If you're an audio user, yep, you can go to the website and get the audio book too as well. So again, we appreciate your literary work. We appreciate you taking time out to be on the Doc Bookshop Live, and we're sorry about all the technical challenges, but this is an ongoing conversation. So your season with us wraps around in June too for Men's Month. So we've been pulling out Eton Thomas for the past year or so.
Yeah.
That's great. That's great. Well, like I said, much respect to your story and everything that you do. And I would love to come back. So just let me know, be a part of the different things that you're doing, because you're doing it great, and you're the biggest one in the region, and the what I mean, the biggest one. Yeah, that's special.
Years.
13, that's special.
13
yeah,
years.
Come on, that's special.
Same
that's
location.
Special, so, yeah,
and
that's great.
You have your own little section with the books that we read off at the start of the discussion. Those are the books we kick off June and Men's Month with. So
that's great.
Men, so
that's great.
So that's exciting. I had to send you a picture.
All right, definitely. That's great.
Hey, in the spirit of Black History Month, I always just like saying we have to mention Carter G. Woodson, who began this honoring this month first as Black History Week in 1926. Once again, February was chosen by us, no one else. He chose February to honor the birthdays of Abraham Lincoln and Frederick Douglass, who were the most beloved personalities at the time. Once again, Black History Month started with Carter G. Woodson, 1926. Happy Black History Month. Please share and learn for the month. And hey, 365 Black.
And if people want to comment on your book, if they have reading circles and they want to reach out and tell them how much they love your book, where do they? How do they reach out to you?
I hope that children got something out of this, because it seemed like a very healthy discussion about things we need to know about.
Oh, for sure.
Definitely. So for when you follow me on my social media at Etan Thomas 36. It's at my name, Etan, ETAN THOMAS, and it's number 36. This was my jersey number when I was playing. And I have my website, EtanThomas.com, and there my information is on there. My manager's information is on there. If you want me to come and speak at an event, now that we have doing so much stuff virtual is easy. You know what I mean? I just go to my office and put on the computer. I do that all day.
My dad talks about that all the time.
It's easy though.
Perfect, right? You like that?
No, you take out the traveling part, you just pop in. Right. I do that all day. So yeah, definitely. But I want to do. These are conversations that I'm doing a HBCU tour right now. I did, we did a few HBCUs in February. We're going to continue it in March. But that's what I really like doing: engaging people, engaging young people, even if it's going to PWIs and debating people. I like that energy because once you talk, and sometimes people have a preconceived notions of what they thought. Like they hear you say white supremacy or white, privilege, and they go in there thinking, oh, who is that? And then after you start talking, they're like, oh, okay, well, I didn't know that's what you meant by it. And and it's completely different.
Especially with your subtitle, The Fight Against American Traditions. Oh, definitely. That's a problem.
but once we break it down, how it's undeniable. It's not like it's an opinion. These are facts of how it is a tradition in this country.
That's
you
right.
Know what I mean? That's what it was. So
that's right.
Yeah, but those discussions are important to have.
For sure. For sure.
Okay, I truly appreciate everybody and the discussion. Yes, we got a big HBCU event coming up this weekend, so we'll definitely make sure we have your books out at the Jet Relays because we're one of the sponsors of that event, and that's all the HBCUs are going to be in that track and field event March 12th. And Farrell, real quick, the exoneration of Marcus Garvey, we had Baba Coast on there. If you go to our website, thedocbookshop.com, and sign that petition, we still need 100,000 signatures. And you want to talk about somebody that done it well and done it right in terms of economics, Black nationalism, nation building. None other than the Honorable Marcus Garvey. His son is still with us today. Please go to thedocbookshop.com. That's the easiest way. Or go to Justice for Garvey and sign that petition. We have 3 more days left to get a posthumous pardon for Marcus Garvey right there. So yes, let's do it.
Okay.
Right.
You got it? Okay, y'all ready to check out? Let's go.
I'll talk to you later, Farrell.
Okay, Pop.
Okay.
Peace out.
All right.
All right, Doom.
Talk to you later, too, Don.
Bless.
Thank you.
All right.